Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. I am your host, Sean Hayes. This is episode 328, and we're here to bring you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. So, hope everyone's doing great this week. I am home alone with the dog for the week. So, I thought I was going to get lots of gaming time in, but I got a lot of projects to do. So unfortunately, that's not happening. But one thing that I did do, so folks who have been fans of 8-Bit Adventures for a while, I finally completed converting Chapter 4 comics on the website to the new format that they're going to be in. So what this is, previously I was using the Comic Press plugin. Long time great plugin if you're doing web comics. But unfortunately, it hasn't been updated for a while. Seems like it's been abandoned. And so abandoned plugins not great for website security. So I've been trying to convert everything over, figuring out a new format to put the comics up on, and just doing them as like regular posts. So I finally got Chapter 4 done, which was something like 80 comics. And so Chapter 3 is only 30 comics, and so that'll go a lot faster. Chapter 2 is 60 comics, so again, much faster than that. And then Chapter 1, which is 100 comics. So that'll be the big final push. My goal is to get everything done this week. So if I can do 20 to 30 a day, we're good. And the big thing is like I have to, number one, like resave the comics and kind of adjust the size of them a bit, so that they fit like a featured image dimensions. But then I have to create posts for everything, and that's the part that takes a long time, because otherwise I can just automate the process in Photoshop and just like do a batch for everything. But yeah, remaking all those posts and like matching the previous upload date and making sure all the metadata is the same and stuff it is a big old mess. So, but yeah, I've been waiting for this week to come so that I can get all that done. So fingers crossed I can get it done. Then uninstall that plugin, and hopefully my site will stop throwing errors on Google and all that stuff. So, but that's neither here nor there. If you're here for the podcast, you don't care about the comics and everything. But if you do, I have a webcomic that this podcast is named after. So go check that out, 8bitadventures.com. But enough about that. Let's get into this week's topics, shall we? First up, controversial. Game Informer reports that Bungie has confirmed that they did in fact steal artwork. That, quote, unauthorized use of artist Anti-Real's art ended up all throughout Marathon, their upcoming game. It was brought up by Anti-Real, who has had their work stolen like quite a bit from various companies, and it's just exhausting to like try and push and go after them for copyright infringement. But this particular instance picked up a lot of traction on social media, and so it was brought to it reached Bungie's attention, and they looked into it. Now, whether this was intentional or not, they're claiming they're investigating on how all that stolen art made it into the game. They're claiming that it was an ex-employees like texture folders. So they don't know. They don't know if a former employee was just like going through and taking stuff without doing due diligence of like, or just like thinking that, oh, we're just testing it and I just need to throw stuff in there and we'll replace it later, which you still can't do, folks. Yeah, I don't know. Or rather, like, if you're gonna do that, like, you can't share that with people. Because the thing was, like, they did an alpha test and this artwork is just plastered like everywhere. So yeah. So who's to say as to whether, Bungie's just trying to cover for nefarious activity, or this was just like a rogue employee who, obviously no longer works there, but just like was sloppy or was malicious, unknown. But they are quote investigating their processes to find out how this made it through all the screening for stuff like that. So yeah. It's wild to me. Like, unless they like picked it up on, I could see a scenario, and this is giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you want to do that, maybe we don't. I could see a scenario where if this artwork was stolen by somebody else and then put up on a website, and then claiming that it was fair use or like free use or royalty free, and that's where it was sourced from, I could see that happening. Again, I don't know the full details, but it's also entirely possible that something else happened here. You know, I would, yeah. This is bizarre for something like this large scale. And it seems like it's for like decal like art, like for weapons and stuff. So it's very strange. Like, why? How are your artists not coming up with this stuff on their own? Like, or pay the license. Like, it's that simple. It would, it sounds like it's equivalent to employees like ripping off Adobe stock or iStock or something without paying the license, but also like leaving the watermarks in there. So yeah, this is something that I actually run into in my day job quite a bit. Mostly as the person who tells other people, not my team, but tells other departments, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't use that art. Or if you want to use that, we'll pay the license for it. And then they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. So, yeah, it's bizarre to me. Also, don't steal artwork. Don't do it. So, we'll see what comes of this, because I'm sure this is gonna keep making the rounds. And actually, I might do a little bit more research on my own, just because art theft is not cool, folks. Also, in the case of like, you could very clearly just contact the artist and work out a licensing agreement. Like, this isn't contacting like another studio or something. That's the part that gets me. Is like, come on. So, next up, Polygon reports that Legend of Advantresses. So if you're in the D&D sphere on social media, you've probably seen Legend of Advantress pop up. It's another actual play series. They're folk horror themed campaign setting and player options that ran a very successful Kickstarter, earned more than $4 million, which I guess makes it the most successful D&D 5e project on the platform ever. Which is wild. Their books are coming to D&D Beyond. So, I however you feel about Wizards of the Coast, I really like the fact that they are including more third-party creators on D&D Beyond. And I would like to think that the inclusion on that platform means that there is some sort of I don't want to say equitable because I don't know the terms, but at least like decent deals for getting them on the platform, like decent agreements, and fee structures and everything. So, yeah, this is cool. I'm super glad that third party content is making its way onto the platform. So, yeah. So, it's coming on there June 15th, I believe. That's what it said. It's around that time period. So, the player's options include subclasses, spells. There's like a hero's boon system. And all sorts of that sort of stuff. And then the adventure is I think it's a 350-page adventure. Runs from it's a full campaign, folks. It's not just like a single adventure book. It takes you from level 1 to level 13. And it's sort of very like out in the woods, horror themed. Seems like there's a train involved. And the big bad is called the Crooked Man. So, very interested to see that. I haven't watched any of their full episodes, but like their clips at least are very funny. Seems like it's a very funny group who, I will say it is an actual play that does incorporate like the streaming element into it. So if that's not your bag, unfortunately, like it's one of the where, like donations and bits and stuff can like influence stuff in the game. So if you're not into that, you might want to skip it, but it's one of those things that leans into the media for it, because it is a live streamed game. But yeah, so congrats to that team. That's a big get, and for a wildly successful Kickstarter. So yeah, very excited about that. Funny enough, that article only has one comment, and it's a person complaining about how actual play is slithering into the I forget what they call it, but like published materials or whatever, and it's like, come on, like, how is it any different than anybody publishing a campaign setting? So yeah, I don't know. Just old man yelling at clouds. Next up, IGN reports that Electronic Arts, former most hated company in America, which I looked up, and that was like 12 to 13 years ago. It feels like it's still relevant, but apparently, I don't know. Apparently, it's been some time since they were voted last. But they will permanently end remote work and implement a full return to the office. So it's a bit complicated what they're doing. They're creating like zones for their employees where like if you're within 30 miles, you're considered local. But current hybrid employees will be required to work at least 3 days a week in the office, in whatever local office they're nearest to. But at the same time, if you are further than that, you are considered remote, and at least for now, you will still be able to work. Admittedly, the article, like the headline, didn't seem to match up with the article, where the headline was like ending remote work. But it sounds like they are phasing out remote work, and that folks who are within that 30-mile radius of a local office will have their that are like fully remote will have that phased out within like 60 to 90 days, sounds like. But it's also left up to the discretion of the individual local office. So there is no like global policy being enforced. Yeah, it's just a mess. And they're spinning all the corporate buzzwords of like, oh, it's more creativity and more efficient to have everybody in the office and conversing and stuff. And it's like, I mean, maybe like for some offices, yeah, it could. And for some offices, having everybody in the office doesn't actually make anything faster, and in fact might make it slower. I say this, I am a hybrid employee at my day job. I am a manager. I certainly would not mind if my staff were fully remote. Almost everything that we do is done in browser. So, aside from Photoshop, so it's not like we have any specialized software that has to stay on company machines. And yeah, and we were fully remote for a while. So my personal feeling is if the job can be done fully remote without issue, there isn't a very good reason to enforce returning to office, even hybrid wise. But there's also a big difference between like you're remote, but you got to do like 2 meetings a week where you have to be in the office for them. But also, if you're going to make people be in the office for those meetings, do stuff that requires them to actually be physically present for those meetings. Because like there's so many meetings that could just happen over Zoom or Teams or Google, like that you don't need people to be physically present. Again, it seems like managers who can't manage are enforcing this, which is, entirely corporate structure. So, and yeah, if you find there's people who work remotely who aren't doing their job and slacking off or whatever, I mean, that's a management issue. Like, that's, it shouldn't be that a couple, if you have a couple problem employees who don't work well from home, end up canceling the whole thing for everybody. So, I don't know. I would be very interested to see if there are any actual studies coming out of whether forcing a return to office policy actually improves efficiency and creativity and work output. This was another case where it's so bizarre seeing people like defend Electronic Arts for these policies in the comments. Like, it's EA, folks. Who's defending EA? So yeah, it's just bizarre. So yeah. So for those EA employees who were remote who are now being upended by these policies, my condolences. You deserve better. like the folks over at Giant Bomb announced, it's gone independent. It's going rogue. Yep. So the employees at Giant Bomb bought out their company from Fandom. They're going to lean on subscriptions for revenue, and they're trying to figure out new structure, new path going forward. But they have become fully independent. So this was like much earlier in the week that this news broke, and it was like the 1-2 punch of like Game Informer coming back independently, or being managed independently, and then Giant Bomb coming back as employee owned, is pretty great. I know for a while I had moved Giant Bomb out of the news feed. I'll probably move it back in now, since Fandom, not known to be great, or known to not be great, rather. If you aren't familiar with Fandom, if you go to like any wiki that's not Wikipedia on the web, chances are the top result is a Fandom wiki. They're the ones that are just loaded with, like, overloaded with ads and streams, which pads their streaming numbers. So yeah, it's an example of like extremely terrible user experience, and like often leads to other independent wikis popping up for various, games, media projects. So yeah, this is great news for Giant Bomb. Finally, our last bit of news, Nintendo Life reports that the Switch 2 will only support VRR, which, if you're apparently a casual like me and didn't know what that was, variable refresh rate, in handheld mode. There was some confusion because it was listed on the official site in certain regions, like Europe being one of them, that seemed to suggest it would be available in docked mode as well. And what led to the confusion was, like, I think it was the case where it was listed in Europe, but not the US. Nintendo has confirmed it is available only in handheld mode. But when pressed for more information, like if it would, like, in the future become available in docked mode, Nintendo said they have no plans to announce. Like, they have nothing to announce at this time. So it's not a no. It's also not a yes. If it will come later. So yeah. Yeah, admit it. So it seems like, and I'm sure I'm gonna get flack, I don't know, from somebody who thinks that I don't know what I'm talking about. Which in this case, like, I had to look up, like, why does it matter? So it sounds like it helps games that have inconsistent frame rates. But it also sounds like it's more of a deal for like 4K stuff. So I don't know. I still don't have a 4K TV, so again, like, a lot of this stuff is irrelevant to me. But yeah, so Nintendo Life got that cleared up. Yeah, yet another big misstep in the messaging for the Switch 2. Which, like, thankfully there was, like, everybody was hungry for this, because like the PR and the messaging coming out for this console has been, like, uncharacteristically bad for Nintendo. So yeah. Also, there was, again, we'll call it a refresher of the end user license agreement for Nintendo consoles that basically says, if you're caught pirating or modding, and you connect to the internet, they can brick your console. And there's like a no arbitration thing or whatever. This has been noted that like these have kind of been part of the EULA like for like a decade and a half at least. So I don't know why it's striking anybody as new. But yeah. Also the fact that like no arbitration clauses are largely unenforceable in the US. So but also like I mean, even if you don't file a class action lawsuit, like public pressure can still get the job done. Looking at you, Switch Joy-Cons, which they did get a class action lawsuit. I don't know if it was in Europe. In the EU, they got one. But the repair program was pretty good in the US. So, yeah, another big set of missteps for Nintendo on the messaging of this. I want it to come out so that everybody shuts up about the speculation and the hardware. Like, I'm done. I don't, because in like so much of the hardware specs are misleading, or it doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other. And just like conflicting opinions about like whether it has this many teraflops actually means, this level of performance or that level of performance, or, oh, it has this much internal storage, but like this has to be reserved. And it has, this much RAM, but like this much is going to be taken up by game chat, which is terrible. And I'm so done. I just want it to come out and then have people just shut up about it. Which one final point before we do, on that point of game chat, everybody, the fact that this is what people have been asking for with the Switch, and then they get it, and now everybody's going, oh, well, I just use Discord, so why should I care? Let me remind you that Discord is seeking to go public, and they brought in and their current CEO, because like the co-founder stepped down, and their current CEO is from Activision Blizzard, is a former Activision Blizzard executive. So I'm personally waiting for the shoe to drop on Discord and then be like, oh, well, that was fun. We're done. So, but yeah, like, don't ask for a thing, especially when everybody was complaining about how it worked and how you had to use your phone for the voice chat on Switch for certain things. And now that's literally the argument that people are saying is like, oh, well, I'm just going to use my phone for Discord. Like, it's so infuriating. It is. It just feels like an Ouroboros of like there's no pleasing Nintendo fans. So, yeah, can't wait for everything to quiet down. So, that's my little rant. So, that is going to wrap everything up for this week. Thank you all for joining me for this episode. If you would like to get more content from 8-Bit Adventures, I mentioned at the top of the show, but 8bitadventures.com. And you know what? If you check it out, when you check out the comics and stuff, let me know what you think of the new format. Like currently both formats are up on the website right now. Just because I don't want to pull the comic press plugin and potentially lose all my comics before re-uploading them. So you can kind of get a comparison up there. But also there's links to all of the podcasts that I've done in the past. and as well as a link to this podcast. If you would like to help support all that stuff, check out patreon.com/8bitadventures. Big shout out and thank you to all my current patrons. Also, big news for that. Big win in court against Apple, in that Apple was ruled that it cannot block alternate payment systems. So if you are a patron who had previously gone through the app on an Apple device, you will no longer get a cut taken out, because Patreon is switching up the payment processing for that to their own. So yeah, big news for that. And shout out and thank you to all of my current patrons. Thank you for keeping the lights on. Thank you for paying for formerly it was podcast hosting. It basically almost all goes to website hosting now. But thank you for that. Opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. Big shout out to him. Go check his stuff out over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. Been using that theme for it's 2025. 7 years now. It's been a long time. 6 or 7 years. And he's great, chiptune artist. So go check that out. And with that, we're done. So as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.